Recently, the title and release date of the second The Owl House special and the penultimate episode overall for the future has dropped. It will come out on January 21st, 2023, which is next month. I would spend that it and the series finale, Watching and Dreaming, would drop on January 10th, 2023, which is the 3-year anniversary of the release of the first episode of the series, a Lion Witch and a Warden, bookending the series. Turns out Watching and Dreaming will release sometime in April. Here's my reminder to like, subscribe, and share for more content, and leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Anyways, as of a writing of this video script, the amount of information we have is very limited, and it's a month and a half away. There are spoilers, so make sure you're current with the Owl House or don't care about spoilers in the first case. There is some strong language. Without further ado, let's get started, witches! What does the title For the Future mean? Every season of the Owl House has a hidden message in the first letters of the episode names. For season 1, it was A Witch Lose the True Way, which referred to Luz sacrificing a way home for the time being. For season 2, it was Seek the Key, Fear the Lock, as the key to save the Boiling Isles was locked in the past of Emperor Bellows, aka Philip Woodbine, a man who has become fear, not only by being a dictator of a corpse garden of his petrified victims, but also capable of turning it into a grim snarl to beat kids so senselessly we can't show it. And the fact that he's one of Luz's fellow humans proves that us Homo sapiens are the real monsters here. As season 3 was shortened, I speculated that the episodes would spell out Luz by virtue of their names being Light the Way, Ultimatum, and Zero, or End, by the names being Escape from Gracefield, No Turning Back, or A Denouement, but I'm satisfied with the first word spelling out TFW, or Thanks for Watching, as it's a little nod to the fans for sticking through it all, even the weaker episodes concentrated in the first half of the first season. Anyways, it's time to figure out what For the Future means. For the Future comes with the ominous description: Luz and friends enter the portal to the demon realm, but they have bigger and stronger problems to deal with. With the description alone, we know that they'll inevitably have to deal with a Collector, who is the single strongest living character in the series. I think that the Collector will be redeemed, as they don't seem as actively malicious as they seem like a hyperactive child whose omnipotence, underdeveloped brain, and eons-long imprisonment resulted in them having a poor grasp on morality. However, I don't think the Collector is going to be the final boss, as they were added in to compress the plot to fit within a 16-hour time limit instead of applied 22 hours of runtime. Not that I'm hating on the Collector or anything. They're an amazing character with a cool design and a fun personality. I'm sure Bellows will be the final boss, as he's been set up since day one as the great force of evil that Luz has to overcome. He's set up to be a twisted, evil version of her since the start, a scary future that shows her what if she let her flaws rule her, while also being a scary future that will never come to be. A young child who is losing or already lost their father is taken to Gracefield, Connecticut to grow up by their single caretaker. They're an outcast, so they indulge in fancies to cope and end up in the Boiling Isles. Who am I describing? Philip Whitbait, Luz Dosada, or both? The thing that kept Luz from becoming Bells is that she was raised on fantasies of being a witch, while he was raised on fantasies of being a witch hunter. And Bellows has lost everything. Again, everybody on the Isles knows of his true nature. He seems unable to use glyphs, and it's possible that he's still somewhat weaker than the cataclysmic strength he wielded in King's Tide. He's probably going to begin to acknowledge that the witch hunts that were glorified in his childhood are now vilified, so he can't get glory, so things will get gory. Even before the series, Bellows lost his parents, his way home, his brother, even though he did that to himself, his humanity, even though he too did that to himself, in his hopes of ever returning home hailed a hero. Bellows can't change can't challenge the people of the Owls on a 1v fight. There's just too many enemies for him to deal with. He can only hide away for so long. He will be found. He can't change his name again. He'll be clocked and socked within seconds. What does a man do when he has several million witches, a Grimwalker, an infant titan, a star god, a younger and inexperienced glyph using Hewitt, and a pissed off MILF to deal with? Something drastic and fast, as he can't afford to give his enemies centuries of prep time again. I'm thinking that this plan B will be one of 3 possibilities. Option 1 will be to merge with a collector to collector bells, seeing that he's able to pull off shit like possessing living beings, a draining spell, and research of basilisks. It's possible that he will use his research to steal the collector's power. Option 2 will be to merge with a boiling owl's titan himself. After all, we see what looks like his bile sack or part of it in Bells' throne room, and the fact that his pulsate proves that they're still living parts of a titan. However, there's the problem of size, as Bells had to possess a rabbit and a deer before he could possess Hunter, and the titan is 32 kilometers or so tall. And there's a question of there's enough viable flesh for him to move around with, and if he'll degrade it too quickly to do much. After all type Bells will have to do is stand up to win, and even if a good number of witches survive an ecological catastrophe, will leave consequences they, the descendants, will have to deal with. As for option 3, I see it tied with Luce's character arc, as she's the only major character whose character arc remains unfinished. Bells will find that create a time pool that will lead Luce back in time several years and give her an opportunity to return to her birth town so she can deliver some medicine to cure the illness that killed Manny. By possessing Hunter, I'm sure Bellos learned or at least figured out that Manny Noseda fell ill, caused his wife Camila to move a family to Greyfield to at the very least make sure her husband's death is humane. He might have even learned the identity of an illness and have formulated a cure for it. And if Manny never died, Luce would have never come across a Good Witch Azura series, which would have stopped her from one be a witch, which would have let Bells execute the day of duty without a hitch. However, with option 3, I do see it having a bit of a foregone conclusion. As it's Disney, as it's a kid show, it needs a bittersweet ending at the bare minimum. As the way time travel works in the Owl House is that the past has already been changed. Bells will also figure out that Luce blames herself, of course, for her father's death and will offer a chance to save Maddie, to create a timeline where he wins and Luce lives free of regrets. It looks like Luce is going to accept Bells' offer, but she then turns it down, finally acknowledging that the good she brings into others' lives far outweighs the harm she brings upon others. Luce gives Bells a speech about how she is not going to selfishly take away everything she gave from her friends and family just so she can feel better about herself. Anyways, back to what For the Future means. Luce and their allies are fighting for the future of the Boiling Owls, so it's free from the collector's games and Bells' schemes. That's the obvious connotation. What else could it mean? It could refer back to Caleb and Evelyn as they work for the future where humans and witches could coexist. Build a portal system to travel to and from Gravefield as the Boiling Owls at will, and share knowledge with one another. A portal system that would eventually save the world by bringing in a champion that will one day rival Caleb's brother. And not only that, but they also had a child together that they hope to raise both as a human and as a witch. And while said child never got to go to their father's realm, let alone meet him, because Caleb died to defend his pregnant wife from his brother, they continued the bloodline that stretched down into the present day. A bloodline whose most recent and possibly last edition is the most powerful witch on the Boiling Owls, Edelyn Clawthorn herself, a witch who gave Luce a second mother, who taught her to stand up for herself, to be brave, to defy authority she disagreed with, as well as Edith's sister Lilith, who helped Luce uncover Bells' dark plans by diving into the Owl's past he buried. Edith's curse and this resolution probably helped give Luce closure on her father's death, let her open up at all about him to her girlfriend Abdi. It's possible that we will see centuries after it was initially envisioned, Caleb and Evelyn's plans for the Owls unfold, at least in the epilogue. After all, we do not want to see Lumity broken up, or they have the best romantic chemistry ever. If Luce no say that Abdi Blight break up by the end of the series and don't end up back together by the very end, we riot. I'm thinking that they will start by debalancing the Isles, slowly abolishing the covenant system and set up a constitutional government so that no other tyrant takes power. Then they'll be establishing a peaceful union between both worlds and making sure that the future generations learn the past withheld from past generations for half a century. And making sure no zombie witch hunters ever menace the Isles again. As well, Jacob Hopkins may be a joke. Who knows how dangerous him and his ilk could be on the right, or more accurately, wrong circumstances. After all, just one witch hunter was able to do an insane amount of damage over 400 years and almost succeeded causing the extinction of witchkind. That also leads into the other threat to peaceful coexistence that will pop up after Bells' demise. Vengeful witches. After all, if all you know about humans is the madman who oppressed your people for longer than most of them have been alive, commit many crimes across the centuries, and try to murder you and everybody you know, you probably think something along the lines of, the only good human is a dead human. Of course, not only the humans will need to be educated that witches aren't dangerous, tooth-stealing, baby-eating monsters, but the witches will need to be educated that humans are no longer so witch hunt happy, and that Bells is the exception and not the rule. Nothing like vindicate the ancestors of your mentor. And that's what I think the title For the Future means. It's about the Clawthorn clan, past and present, fight for the future where humans and witches can coexist in peace. Next, it's on to the theme of grief. The final season deals with a theme of grief. Thanks to them, goes into more depth about Luce and Camilla's grief for managing to have the death that we could grieve in the loss of Flapjack. However, I think it won't be as simple as everyone grieves something or someone. I think that it'll be about what others make of their grief. I can see Hunter use his grief for Flapjack to feel his rage against his creator, and Luce learned to process her grief for her father in a much healthier manner than balling it up, refusing to talk about it, and minimizing her feelings. I feel like there's been enough more tragedies, and the remaining two specials will deal with how the others deal with them. As for how Luce could positively process her grief over her father's death, we already have a good idea where. The Good Witch Azura series, which Manny gave to his daughter as a parting gift to cheer her up in her hardest time, and it worked like a charm and became her greatest inspiration. Luce will use her father's legacy to be just like the eponymous protagonist of her favorite book series, a brave and just young woman who her late father spent eternity looking down upon from heaven, tearfully smiling fatherly pride as the undying light he brought into this world vanquishes ancient darkness. And I can see that Camilla let the grief of her husband motivate her instead of keep her down. Of course, lose the single greatest gift Camilla could possibly get from Manny, but her own trauma from being bullied and ostracized in her formative years has made her afraid to let her dog be herself, resulting in her getting pushed around by Luce's principal. And now have been forced to shelter 6 different children hurt by Bellows, including her own biological daughter. She's going to take a stand. She's not gonna fuck around and let people like Luce's principal or Bellows hurt her babies or tell them what they can or can't be, what they can like or can't like. She's going to stand by them until she can stand no more. She is going to punish Bells with all the hate she has in her heart for him, all of which he has earned many times over. She will do what Manny wanted her to do, to burn down all the sanctimonious fools that think they can tell the Dosada family what's acceptable or unacceptable, to make the haters eat their words, to take a stand for who she cares for. The Dosadas are going to fulfill family patriarch Manny's last request, prove that they no longer need him for comfort and courage. Even Bells is grieving his brother Caleb, or at least the idea of him. I'm sure that Philip didn't love Caleb as a person, he only loved the idea of his brother. A big brother who stands with him through sick and sin, and not some witch-boning slut who only went along with a witch hunt to please his elders. As Philip never had any friends growing up outside of Caleb, that prevented him from grasping how social interactions worked. So as a witch hunt corrupted his impressionable mind, he was unable to distinguish if he loved Caleb Woodbine, the man, or Caleb Woodbine, the idea. And when Philip saw that Caleb ate witch pussy, he was outraged, furious, sick with anger. So he killed his own brother, hoping to end the bloodline of unholy witch-human hybrids that he started. That failed, obviously, as he can come close to killing younglings, but never of a full mile. He's not Anakin Skywalker. However, Philip, now calling himself Bellows, having become a pariah for being a serial killer, created Grimwalker after Grimwalker from Caleb's corpse, killing them whenever they failed to match the idea of Caleb he had in his head. If they were to betray him, if they were to feel sympathy or serve for witches, he would quickly replace them. However, Philip desperately keeps killing and replacing Grimwalkers, hoping that the Caleb he thought he knew was a real Caleb, and not the horrific realization that his only friend and family member doesn't support his interests. I can see that when Bells is killed, he seems to realize that he never loved his brother as a person. He loved the idea of his brother, and his last thoughts are despair, as which kind continues on. As his evil deeds in the demon realm will inevitably destroy whatever is left of his good legacy in the human realm, as his fellow humans revile him, as he realized that he hopelessly pursued an idea for centuries to cope with a murder of the only living being who was genuinely sympathetic to him till the bitter end, and that his pursuit for witchblood has taken so long, even if a day of unity succeeded he returned home, victory would taste as bitter as defeat. What better villain for a show that deals with grief than the bitter old man desperately clinging on to a rose-tinted impression of a past that never existed? It is looked upon by modern historians with scorn. A bitter old man who clings to those nostalgic impressions because they're all he has left, as he has no family, only an expendable imitation of the idea of the only companion he ever had, and by killing said family, making himself immortal to see his plan through, he renounces humanity. You know, the species, he says again and again, he's on the side of the inevitable war with witchkind, and while his future, via his futile hopes that the witch hunt are still cool, that he could earn the love of people who once ostracized him, who he must know have all died centuries ago, he caused so much harm, narrowly avoiding the abyss of despair. But again, he probably fell in after seeing centuries of planning now wasted, and even without knowing him as a jackass who tried to petrify a little girl of his own species, the cracks in what little reverence the mainstream members of his race are starting to show, and that girl accused him of his brother's murder, which he exonerates himself via his simplistic logic that all humans are inherently good and that all witches are inherently evil, and decide
no more play, no more patience. Instead, everything shall be consumed!
In what? The hellfire that inevitably awaits such a sinful man with a sinful extended existence, as while his legacy is forever ruined and he has no one, he will make a desperate last bid to spill as much witch blood as possible. Anyways, without exploring the tragedy of Emperor Bells even further, just because he's tragic doesn't mean he's redeemable. He crossed the line centuries ago when he murdered his own brother in an attempt to wipe out his sister-in-law's unborn nephew and niece. We will need to know what watching and dreaming means. I feel like it means that the entirety of a boiling god is wanted the heroes in the final battle dreaming of a future. Some people think that it means that the entire series is Alias Luce's dying dream, which would not only be a depressing note to end on, but will completely invalidate basically everything. If it turns out to be true, I swear to God that I will quit on this show. It could refer to a departure with Caleb and Evelyn watching over the Isles, having seen Philip's vision for it unfold, only be relieved that their direct descent inspires another Caleb's fellow humans to create a world that they never got to see in their lifetimes, a world for both humans and witches. As I stated before, I don't think it will be immediate. I'm sure that a good majority of witches would be opposed to living alongside humans, especially the inevitability of the people learning that Bells is a human. I'm thinking that the last scene will take place after time skip and show that life on the Boiling Gods is improving, as the groundwork for the true realms peacefully coexisting is being laid out, perhaps years into the future, is that it confirms that Luce and Darby got married and they're either expected or already had a daughter that they named Azura, or could end with Luce and Darby getting married. To be honest, I don't have that much of a clue, but I will say this, that the release dates of the specials hold significance. Thanks to them was a Halloween special, thus it took place around Halloween time, had Hunter getting possessed and looked into the past of Gracefield, and how it's a shared past of Boiling Isles, with further future drops on January the 21st, and it could be a New Year's special, as we are now in an age of turmoil in Boiling Isles history. What will be determined is if the Isles will have a new era free of tyranny, free of witch hunts, or if that is the end of history. It could also be about the characters making New Year's resolutions. Perhaps Edith made a resolution to find Lucy and her friends and has spent the last few months searching for them, or at least a way back to Earth, especially if King or the Collector reveal that they are alive. Or she at least suspects that they're alive but stuck on Earth. Another New Year's resolution would be for Camilla to make Bellows pay and be the best mother that she could be, which she already is doing exceptionally well. I don't make New Year's resolutions because they tend to be broken. Don't jinx it, Camilla. Luce could make a New Year's resolution to cope with the grief that Taraba has haunted her ever since the pre-series in a healthier manner, and to understand that not everything is her fault. As for Bells' resolution, it will be to kill all witches, which he will obviously be unable to keep. And Hunter's resolution will be to avenge Flapjack and get to live a normal life. Another possible holiday is that for the future could be Dia de la Altagracia, which is exactly on January the 21st. It celebrates the patron saint of the Dominican Republic, the Virgin Mary, and victory over the French in 1690. And if you remember that those saints as a Dominican American, victory over colonial oppressor will be fit for defeat Bells, whose horrific worldviews were solidified and normalized by colonialism, and he colonized the Boiling Isles all by himself. As for the Virgin Mary, there's a theory floating about that Lucy the Collector are half-siblings by virtue of Manny Noseda being the Collector's father who went on a time-killing spree when his child was sealed away and was punished by being reincarnated into a mortal man. However, I disagree with that theory, as it runs against the show seems that destiny does not exist. What I think the Virgin Mary figure could be is Evelyn Clawthorne, who lost her husband as a father of her child to Bellows. She could have claimed that she was a truly single mother, as anti-human sentiment was high at the time, as the witch hunts were concurrent, and there was a dangerous witch hunter on the prowl on the Boiling Isles, who would shape up to be the single most dangerous monster that ever plagued it and its inhabitants. As for the miraculous powers of Jesus, we know that the two most powerful witches of the Isles are descendants of Evelyn and Caleb. We could see V and possibly Masha visiting Camilla's abuela, Luce's great-grandmother, if she is still alive. After all, it's safe to estimate that Camilla is in her mid-40s, so abuela could be over a century old. This is assuming that every generation is about 30 years apart. As for Watching and Dreaming, it airs in April around Easter time. Its synopsis reads, Luce faces final conflict in an attempt to bring peace to the demon realm. The synopsis tells us that this is a series finale, and there'll be a happy or at least bittersweet ending. Why Easter? Easter celebrates the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus. And with Amphibious Final Episode, the hardest thing, it sets up a Jesus symbolism with its protagonist Anne Boontroy, even though the episode aired in May. She dies for amphibious sins, but is resurrected by God before part ways and being worshipped as a divine figure. As for the Jesus figure, it could be King, as he is the son of a god the witches worship, the Boiling Isles Titan, whose massive corpse provides the foundations of their world. If Bells needs Titan's blood, he might crucify him to bleed him, keep him alive for his purposes, and King would be taken down from the cross, but he'll be comatose from severe blood loss. However, he'll wake up 3 days later. Or it could be the Collector, as he's a child of the stars. And in ancient times, humans recognized the sun, the closest star to our world, as its source of heat, so the land and seas don't freeze, and light so plants can grow and animals can see, and worshipped it as a god, and the Collector's a god. Caleb could also be a messiah, in the fact that he dies for his brother's sins, but that isn't enough to stop Philip from sinning even further. His death pose is also eerily similar to the pose of Jesus on the cross and the Grimwalkers' failed attempts to resurrect him. As much as the foregrounds of the Owls are littered with evidence of Philip's crimes, the background has traces of Caleb's good deeds which will ultimately add up to a continuation of which kind. Perhaps we don't see Caleb being truly resurrected, but perhaps Flapjack sacrificing himself will let Hunter access the Cardinal Palisman's memories, including the memories of Caleb and Evelyn, or there's another way for the group to converse with Caleb. Perhaps Caleb will beat himself up for not being there when Evelyn gave birth to his child, or being in his kid's life at all. And Luce will tell Caleb that he literally threw his life away to make sure his pregnant wife could safely deliver her child, and despite having never been held by their father, said child grew up to start a bloodline that would spawn many witches that Caleb would be proud of, including Ida. As someone who had a good father that she lost, Luce would know that Manny would do the same for her and Camilla, and Caleb would be upset at the state of the Owls today, seeing that his tragic dream that he shared with his wife seems more distant than ever, all because he wasn't able to stop his brother. Luce will tell him that he shouldn't worry, as she'll make sure that his dream can be realized, as Luce learning that or figuring out that the Colossals have human ancestry might shake up her view that the two realms need be kept separate, as humans cause witches nothing but grief. Though the human witch hybrids have coexisted with the non-human inhabitants of the Owls for the last few centuries in peace, will make Luce realize that there are some good humans who can be welcomed in the Owls, including her and her mother, but bad actors like Philip should be kept out. Another possible resurrection is Manny. I'm not thinking a true resurrection, but I'm thinking that in the final battle, this is a possibility though. The building they're in begins to collapse and Luce falls down a chasm, and she is separated from the others who are forced to get out without her. Luce wakes up in a collapsing underground chamber and hears a bad voice tell her, Mia, get up. Luce gets up and sees Manny, but it's unclear whether he's Manny's ghost having returned to the world of the living to help his father, to help his daughter, a hallucination, or an illusion, but what for sure is that he leads Luce to safety. While getting out, Luce tells Manny all about her escapades, other boiling owls, and Manny gives his daughter some words of encouragement. Just when they reach the exit, Manny stops, hoping to let Luce hug him, but she just jumps through him and stops to cry just outside the collapsing building, just in safety. She catches up to the others and lets them know she saw her father. As for the last possible resurrection, I think it could be Luce herself. Her shadow looks stabbed and sinks to them, which also foreshadowed Hunter being possessed. I'm thinking that Belle's immortality will be stripped from him because the centuries of his artificially extended life to catch up to him. Desperate, he tries to kill as many of his enemies as possible, prompting Luce to get everyone to safety by using glyphs to force him back. However, that leaves Luce vulnerable to an attack from Belle's, and he stabs her right through the tummy with his staff before rotting to bones and crumbling into dust. Abdi cradles her dying lover and takes her to be healed. It seems like Luce is a goner despite all the medical intervention, but via miracles such as a Titan's blood infusion or some healing spell, Luce is successfully revived. However, having been just been resurrected, she isn't at 100%. It has to be carried around by Abdi used crutches, and years later she has recovered enough to walk on her own, but there's a scar on her midriff from the stabbing, and her eyebrow scar isn't going anywhere soon, and that's all I have to say about the significance of the air dates. And that's all I have to say about the remaining two specials and all available information on them. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share for more content, and leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Tyson out.